Well, what's up Gameweepers? The Jizz has returned, and how can he not? You know, someone has to point out those Pro Guides ad we're still getting. Now in this upload, I'm going to be revealing the 13 champions affected most by the massive 11-11 changes. So I don't know if your champion has improved or gotten worse for the next 2 weeks. Stay tuned because these swingers are about to be disclosed. And just before we do, make sure if you haven't already to hit that sub button like you're hitting the FF vote this season. And the Jizz cannot stress you enough how crucial it is for you to check out the Gameweek website. 20 challenger tier videos a week. That's what you're getting, that are designed to help you improve, to help you climb, to help you wave goodbye to being hard stuck. So join thousands of GameLeap members and get signed up. Links in the description and comment section. All right, let's get into it. And starting off the countdown, we have the Prodigal Explorer Ezreal. And for you Ezreal mains, you're going to be happy this patch because Ezreal's win rate has improved, guys, by 0.5%, so you're winning a few more games. Now, why is this? Well, your base armor is up by 2. So if you cast your minds back to last patch when Jinx's base armor got reduced by 2, this actually decreased her win rate by over 1%. So this is nothing to scoff at. This means in that laning phase, your trading is better because you're taking less damage from minions and the enemy champions, especially their auto attacks. And your HP growth is up as well, so when you are missing health, you are regenning it quicker, which again helps your laning because your sustain is higher. So if you do lose a trade, if you're losing a bit of HP, you can get back to full HP quicker and get back to throwing out mystic shots and being a nuisance. Now the Divine Sunderer buff has caused a lot of commotion in the Ezreal main subreddit because, you know, people want to know if Ezreal is going to have a better mythic than Duskblade this patch, but it's still not as good as going Essence Reaver because this is the other Sheen item you can go and probably should go with Duskblade, Cerulda's Grudge. So unless some crazy Divine Sunderer build comes out in the next few days, Duskblade is still the way to go, but it's still a better patch for Ezreal, which is a good thing. Now we're going to go from one of the sexiest champions on the Rift to one of the ugliest now, and coming in next is Urgot, whose win rate has gone down just a little bit this patch by around 0.5%. Now why is this? Well, in this patch, that infamous balance team decided to change your modifier damage in your W, so it's now going to scale with less AD at later ranks. Now why and when is this important? Well, it's important because you max your W first and it's a big source of your damage. And when is this important? Well, later in a game when you have enough AD items in there. So this of course makes it easier for other champions to duel you the later the game goes. But if you do main Urgot, there's nothing to really fret about here because your modified damage isn't really where your source of power comes from your W. This is in the on hit when you get Titanic Hydra, and I've mentioned this so many times. So if this gets changed, then we need to start panicking. But it's not changing, so Urgot is going to remain as one of the strongest picks this patch again. Now we've got another top laner coming in next, guys, and lots of people, myself included, expected Sion to be one of the strongest champions, let alone top laners on the Rift. But this patch, his win rate has actually gone down almost up to 1%. So why is this? Well, in the laning phase, guys, this is really what dictates and determines the outcome of games, especially in low levels of play, right? And there's one significant item in the early game that got changed and nerfed, which is bad for Sion, and this is of course Bramble Vest. So you're getting 5 less armor from it, and the Bramble Vest reflected damage when an enemy champion starts hitting you does not scale with your bonus armor. This means that when you start getting more armor, your retaliation damage, if you will, isn't going to be as impactful. Now this is really important against champions like Fiora, against Riven, against Tryndamere, and Fiora and Riven especially are very, very strong right now. Now yes, you have Warmog's armor as a potential second item since the change because it's now granting its passive of 1100 bonus health, such as 2 items, and you get this. But the early laning phase again is one of the most important times in the game. So if you're having a harder time, you're going to die more, you're going to get snowballed on more, especially from these bruisers who are pretty strong right now. As I said, Fiora, Riven, throwing Camille, Wukong as well. So Sion and other tanks, because of the Bramble Vest change, have actually been hit more than most of us thought. Now ahead of Sion, guys, in the win rate department, to all you Shuriman pigeons out there, I know this season has not been very kind to you. All the changes have been pretty much nerfs. Well, this patch, you actually got a buff. For Azir, your Q cost is lower. So now you don't have to wait until Lost Chapter to throw out your Qs when you want. You don't have to wait until Leandry's or your mythic item to throw out Qs when you want. You can harass, you can bully your lane opponent in the early game. Now, yes, its cooldown is kind of long and you're still susceptible in that early game, especially if you're pushed up. You can die very, very easily. But mana, especially in that laning phase, was a big issue for Azir. Now, your auto attacks for the first few levels are still doing more damage than your soldier's damage. That's how troll Azir is right now. But still, this patch is a little better. His win rate has improved across the board. So this has given the Emperor a bit more life. Now, another mid lane who's kind of on the other end of the spectrum in terms of win rate here is Corki, because Azir's win rate is very low, of course. Corki's is actually one of the highest in the mid lane and has been high for so long now. One of the main reasons for this is that Essence Reaver spike with Shield Bearer and Mirror Mana as well. Well, this patch, why is it better? Well, I'll be honest, this one is actually pretty confusing because, yeah, as I said, nothing has really changed that much for Corki. Like, your build is still good, none of your items actually got buffed. So why all of a sudden has Corki's win rate gone up? Maybe people are now playing him in the mid lane more, where he has a lot more success than in the bot lane, and any anywhere else, so a little placebo this one, but it is a fact that Corki is one of the strongest mid laners right now. Now, the next champion, guys, who has copped a bit of a buff in the win rate department has been on the end of a mix recently, and this, of course, is Singed. And for Singed this patch, guys, your Fling's cooldown, so your E's cooldown, is now down at later ranks up to 2 seconds at max rank. And when you get your E at max rank, which will be when you have Riftmaker and Ryze, you can throw out multiple Flings in teamfights, and whether you're using your Fling to peel your carries or to create carnage on the enemy backline, you are just way more of a menace, and it's harder to run away from you. Now, with Teemo buffed, his W buff, that lane can be pretty hard to play into as Singed, even with this Fling buff. And you've also got to think about Stridebreaker champions and Divine Sundra being buffed, and Nasus, Wukong, etc. So there are some top laners who are still much stronger than you. But this patch, you are one step closer towards them, so this is a good thing. Now, who likes a bit of K-pop? I don't, but some of you might. But most importantly, the Balance team love K-pop. So this is why Seraphine has got buffed once again, and this time it's her W shield for both her and her ally. But it's not just these direct buffs, guys, that have made Seraphine good once again. It's also the Moonstar Renewer buffs came in, so you're healing for more, and this is stacking for more as well at max stacks. And this is up by 10% at that stage. So the longer the fight goes, especially in those later game team fights where you're trying to peel your carries, Seraphine is more often than not able to duel it out with the best supports right now, like Lulu, like Karma, even Sona, Soraka might be thrown in there as well. So Seraphine is back on the map in the support department. Now, I said in our best champions video, guys, of 11-11 that Wukong is going to be the strongest champion on the Rift, and guess what? He is. There is no doubt about it. Why is this? Well, Divine Sundra has been buffed, and against tanks, against bruisers who are building a lot of health, maybe with Steric's Gauge, maybe with Titanic Hydra, Wukong with Divine Sundra, which is now doing more damage based on the target's max HP, and healing you for more as well, that stick of yours is even stronger. And you know what else has changed, and this is also good for Urgot as well, even though Urgot's win rate has declined by a little bit, Black Cleaver is now back to where it was, 30% armor reduction at max stacks. So as you're dealing damage to an enemy champion and getting those Black Cleaver stacks, which should be easy on Wukong because you've got an attack speed steroid in your E, you've also got an auto attack reset in your Q, you've also got a dash with your W, 2 ultimates in fact, like it's very easy to get those max stacks, and this has actually seen players building Divine Sundra and then rushing Black Cleaver straight after instead of Steric's Gauge this patch. So all of this culminates in a 53% win rate for Wukong, which is one of the highest in the game right now. So if you guys want a top laner to play, you could even make him work in the mid lane because he's so hard to beat in lane. Wukong is the champion to abuse for the next 2 weeks. Now, if you're enjoying these swingers video, guys, where I let you know who the biggest winners and losers are of the patch notes, let us know by leaving a like down below. And coming in next, we have Gimli, the red version that is, and this is Ornn of course, but he's coming in for the wrong reason. And that's because Ornn's win rate, guys, like Sion, has declined by a little bit this patch. Why is that? Well, because you're building HP, Divine Sundra, remember, is doing more damage to champions with more HP. Then we also have to think about the Bramble Vest nerf, which means that Ornn, who was one of the biggest cucks to champions like Fiora, just attack damage champions in general because you could rush that Bramble Vest and it's actually very hard to play against you in lane. Well, now you're a little weaker when you get to that spike, so yes, it's less of a spike, and these champions can actually outduel you and have more of an influence on that game's outcome. Now, I just mentioned Wukong, didn't I? Well, I'm going to mention another Divine Sundra abuser here, and if you don't want to play Wukong, maybe you want to play someone in the laning phase who scales a little bit better and turns into a mid to late game beast. Well, how about the dog? Because Nasus, guys, is incredibly strong right now, and because of this Divine Sundra above, his win rate is just a little bit below Wukong's. That's how powerful Nasus is. But on top of that, that's not all this patch for Nasus, because there's another item that you can build and most likely will build in games, which is Frozen Heart, and this got buffed as well. So not only will you be reducing your target's damage for more, but also slowing their attack speed for more. And in this patch where you're seeing champions like Jinx played more, Vayne, Kog'Maw in the bot lane, you might even see some attack speed based top laners like maybe Set with Blade of the Ruined King, you might have Tryndamere with Kraken Slayer. These champions Frozen Heart becomes so much better against. So for Nasus, guys, this patch has been one of the best, and yes, your win rate has gone up almost 1%. And I'm calling this right now, by the way, Nasus and Wukong, two of the biggest Divine Sundra abusers at this moment in time, will get nerfed by Riot. So if you want free LP, do it this patch before it's too late. Now, the second shotgunner on this countdown, guys, so we just had Urgot. Now let's talk about Graves. And for Graves, we haven't really mentioned him at all this season. Well, this patch, we're going to be talking about him a little bit more because your win rate has increased by around 1%. And why is this? Well, because of that AD per level buff. Now, per level, what does this mean? Well, AD per level, if you're getting more attack damage later in a game, so the more levels you get, the more attack damage you get. This, of course, is great for Graves because you are one of the best scaling champions on the Rift, right? So once you get to your Gale Force, once you get to the Collector, once you get to Lord Dominus Regards or Infinity Edge, whatever you're building really, even Serpent's Fang is worth a shout now for ranged champions. This means that you're just more of a force, right? Your auto attacks are doing more, your Q is doing more damage, your ultimate is doing more damage, so you become much more of a one-shot threat. Now, your early clear still is not as good as other champions, especially the meta ones right now who love to full clear. You know, clearing Krugs, clearing walls, clearing raptors, this can be a bit of a pain. But if you can get to that 2-3 item spike, you have a gooder chance to win any game on Graves as any other champion in the game. Now, as we get into the top 2 champions, guys, who got impacted the most by the 11-11 changes, it is the Jizz's last friendly reminder to you guys to check out the Gameweek website before it's too late. This season, this game is not going to last forever. So do you want to achieve your goals or not? Do you want to get the most out of this game? Do you want to see what your potential is? Well, to do so, you have to get signed up so you can get exclusive access to our video library. All of the videos we have are made by challenger players who have been to that peak of the mountain. So if you want to join us, links down below. It's that easy. Now, ahead of Graves, guys, unfortunately for League's anchorman Nautilus, his win rate has gone down this patch. And the reason for this is because jungle Nautilus is being played a lot more because right this patch, guys, decided to improve your ease damage to monsters. Now, despite these changes, your clear, a bit like Graves, still isn't the best. If you compare this just to Udyr's clear, if you compare this to Nocturne's clear, it's nowhere near as quick. Now, your ganking potential, if you run Predator, for example, is really, really good, if not one of the deadliest. And just a quick tip, don't just throw your anchor out at max range, just walk up to the enemy champion, auto attack them with your passive, and then you can land your Q guaranteed. But in that 1v1, Nautilus really isn't that strong. He falls into that Sejuani and Zac category where you're all about team fighting and setting up kills for your team. Now, in solo queue, that is a little riskier because yes, trusting your teammates, does that even exist? Probably not. But thankfully for Nautilus, guys, Riot actually threw out some mid-patch updates. So what they did, so they fixed your W's AP ratio to its intended value, and they also fixed your E slow to its intended value as well. So when you're ganking lanes, when you're in team fights, when you're using your E, it's actually now going to slow them for the proper amount. So this win rate drop, he's still really good as a support and as a setup champion in general, but still probably not quite good enough to be one of the most viable junglers. Now, the champion, so we just had Azir, right, who has been one of the worst champions so far this season, and he's been on like every worst champions video I've done for this channel. Well, this champion has been on that list as well, but not this time, because Ryze, the most volatile champion on the Rift, his win rate has gone up by at least 1.5% this patch. Now, when a champion like Ryze, who is abused in pro play way more than he is in solo queue, is buffed like this, it becomes very scary for everyone who plays this game, right? And the change Riot brought in, so each level you are getting an extra 12 health. Now, 12 HP, you're probably going, oh, that doesn't even matter, bro. Like, who cares? It's 12 HP. This does matter. This can be the difference between you surviving the burst of a LeBlanc, of a Zed, and then retaliating and returning that damage and winning that 1v1. It's going to be the difference between you surviving in a team fight if you get locked down. And it's actually really valuable because if you remember, Roa no longer exists, and Sarah's Embrace, the shield, you don't get that anymore. So HP brings even more weight to Ryze's kit. And even with the phase rush nerf from last patch, some people might even consider this too much for Ryze, even though his win rate is still really low, like 43 or 44%. He's just that volatile and scary the higher elos you get to. So if I was to guess, like Wukong and Nasus, I honestly think Ryze will revert some of this change, not all of it, but some of it, just because of the implications it might have in pro play. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. Ryze mains, if any of your champions are on this list, by the way, guys, let me know in the comments your thoughts, like how is this patch going so far for you? But those are the 13 champions most affected by the changes. Thanks so much for watching, and until tomorrow's video, this has been the Jizz, and make sure to hit the sub button on your way out. Bye!